arbitrary, off the top of your head, this is what my marketing is worth number.
And another question here from Artemon Games. Is a free demo technically a launch? Depends.
No, but you're going to get some publishers that say it is. But I mean, that number, we're not talking like 50% of the numbers. I would say probably 10, 15% of the publishers out there might argue that a free demo is a launch, but realistically, no, it's not. Especially now with the fact that Steam's doing these Next Fest like every 3 months, it seems like. A free demo is a free demo. It should not be considered a launch. But having said that, you're absolutely going to have some of them that do.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Also, what's the best way to increase our community in the early stages? Just posting more and more content, or would it be consistently running ads?
Oh, that's a good one for some of our community folks. So one, if you haven't checked out our YouTube page, we literally have 3 years of content up there with interviews with people like Victoria Tran and awesome community management folks that we've done on the podcast and at conferences. So check that out for one, because I'm always going to defer to them and those experts on how they should be doing it. The general rule is buying ads doesn't get you as engaged of a community as organic does. And it costs money. Organic is, for the most part, free. If you're going out there and you're putting out, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook or whatever content on your own, that's what you want to be focused on. Don't worry about spending money on ads at this stage, because you're not. The one exception I might make to that rule is if the game is pretty far along and you're trying to drive wish lists, to run an ad on that. But even then, if you're, for most developers, money's tight, focus on organic and work it that way before you start worrying about buying a whole bunch of ads.
Good advice. Another question from our arcade on subject of early access. We love science and learning things. We're thinking to do free experiments on itch.io before talking to publishers. The rest of the question was to show data, prove ideas, establish interest, build audience, etc. What are your thoughts on that?
That's actually not a bad idea at all. And I see several developers do that. And so here's the flip side of the coin. If you put a lot of stuff out there on itch and it is not received very well, and you get a lot of negative feedback or stuff like that, then it's going to backfire in your face. But it's the same as going out there and saying, you put something out in early access on Steam, and this is like another reason why we say don't sell it in early access yet.
But
if you start selling, if you start selling stuff, and then you've got like live reviews, and the publisher goes to that itch page, and they're like, "Oh, okay, so everybody hates this. We don't want to publish it at all, even if it is just experimenting on your side." The same as if they look at a early access game on Switch, on Steam, and if the reviews are in that dreaded mixed or God forbid negative category, that's almost a death sentence, because there's so many games out there that the publisher's going to look at that and go, okay, done. Nope. We're going to move on to the next one. So it is a really good way of, testing out gameplay and things like that. You just have to be very careful about how you do it, because if it backfires and it goes very negative, then it's not going to help you at all. But at the same time, I have seen developers in greenlight meetings with publishers who have had they have a lot of followers and a lot of likes on itch, and the publishers are immediately like, okay, how did you do that? What drove all of that engagement right there? So yes, it is a good idea. Just be very careful. And if it starts looking bad, then remember, it's hard to go in and say, I know our Steam reviews and our itch reviews suck, but this is why. Chances are they don't care. They've already looked at it and saw it, and that switch flipped in their head, and they're going to move on to the next game.
Yeah. Here's another question. It's from Swag Show. Is the Patreon support page considered a launch?
No. Honestly, even an itch page isn't considered a launch, because the sad thing is those don't drive enough consumer interest for the publisher to be worried about it. You can absolutely have a game on an itch page, and only a very tiny percent of publishers are going to go, oh, well, you already launched it on itch, we don't want it. I don't want to say they don't take it seriously, but it's not something that I've ever seen a publisher turn down a game because you have a Patreon page and you think that they think that's a launch. The bigger concern is we've talked to several developers, and like Patreon pages aren't really that great for driving a lot of revenue. But no, you're perfectly fine with that.
Well, here is a great question